Hi everyone, and welcome to Module 3 of our course Social Media Law and Risk Management. This module takes up a really important issue in social media, and that is the issue of identity, or the converse of that, anonymity. And it also relates to issues of privacy and confidentiality on social media. We all know these are things that need to be considered before we open a social media account, but we also need to be aware of identity issues when managing a social media account or dealing with moderation of social media for a corporate entity or some other organisation. That is because certain people will choose to be anonymous for various reasons. Some do that for relatively sinister reasons. They adopt a nom de guerre, a name of battle or war, in a trolling sense, whereas others adopt an anonymous identity for quite legitimate reasons. They could be, for example, a whistleblower with very important things to say about an organisation where some people in higher authority are doing the wrong thing, and they fear for perhaps their positions or even their safety or their lives if they are not anonymous. This happens, of course, in secret states or in regimes where there's a strong clampdown on identity online. In some countries, it's insisted upon that people adopt their own identities when working in social media, and it's actually a criminal offence not to do so. Within the organisational context, it's up to you as a moderator of comments on your own website as to whether you will choose to use comments by those who are selecting anonymity, although we don't have as much opportunity to do so when we're moderating Facebook pages. So all of this is covered in your lectures on issues of identity in social media use and moderation, before we go on to privacy and security issues. And that's where we'll be looking at the notion of privacy, breach of privacy, the law associated with that across Europe and the United States and also in Australia. But we also go into security issues there, censorship, how that relates to people using different identities, what the consequences are for breach of a country's laws in these regimes that don't value free expression. And finally, we look at confidentiality in a medium with few secrets. Because while we might choose to be anonymous, this raises all sorts of issues to do with confidentiality of those we are dealing with. Surveillance in the modern state means that it's very hard to keep secrets and to remain confidential given the amount of surveillance, CCTV cameras, geolocational devices. So we look at that journalist-source relationship and the issue of confidentiality there, but we also look at it from both sides of the equation, because sometimes an organisation wants to find out who it is that's saying nasty things about them on social media, or perhaps conducting a campaign against them from behind the curtain of anonymity. So all of these are up for grabs as we feed through into our notion of stakeholders. What does anonymity and confidentiality and privacy have to do with the interests of the various stakeholders in our social media policies and in our management of social media risk? So that's a prime consideration which we address in the learning problem. But then how does it feed into policies themselves? Do we require all people corresponding with our organisation to give their full identities? What are the consequences for those of us choosing to be whistleblowers or for dealing with anonymous or confidential sources? And how should this mesh with the laws of the nation or the nations in which we are working or doing business? So all of these are factors to consider in the formation of a social media policy and in the analysis and assessment of social media risk. Well, I do hope you enjoy your readings for this module of our course. we're getting into really interesting territory now, and not that the earlier territory wasn't interesting, but at least now we're starting to get our teeth into some of these issues of anonymity and privacy and confidentiality. So I do hope you're finding it interesting and that you're able to apply this to your learning problem successfully. We'll see you in the lectures.